There is a secret buried deep in the shadows of America's past, a secret no one wanted to uncover and no one was meant to hear. Imagine a bloodline so twisted, so closed in on itself, that it circles back like a snake devouring its own tail, a family cursed not by myth, but by the relentless grip of genetics and isolation, a lineage that became a labyrinth of inbreeding so severe it altered the very essence of what it means to be human. And at the center of this dark tale stands Ray Whittaker, the most inbred man in American history, a man who has never spoken a word or uttered his own name, a man who communicates in barks, growls, and gestures, a man trapped not just by his own biology, but by the silence of a world that refused to understand him. Ray's story is not just about a person. It is about the unseen chains forged by hidden agendas, ancient corruption, and systemic neglect that have kept him and his family imprisoned in a cage built by their own blood. But this cage was never accidental. It was created by generations of secrecy and societal blindness, a place where nature's laws collided with human cruelty, where genetic destiny met isolation, and where the human spirit was tested against the darkest forces of family loyalty and abandonment. You are about to dive into a forbidden history, a story that exposes how the manipulation of bloodlines and the control of information can shape not only individuals but entire communities. Ray's life forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about the cost of ignoring those who fall outside society's norms, about the shadows that lie beneath the surface of what we call civilization, and about the powerful systems that decide whose stories get told and whose remain buried. So lean in close, because what you're about to hear is not just a story, it's a revelation, a key to understanding the hidden dynamics of control and survival in a world that likes to pretend these things don't exist. Ray Whittaker was born into a world where family was a loop, a genetic spiral that never branched out but folded inward over and over again. His parents were first cousins, but it goes deeper. His grandparents were identical twin brothers. This means that the same DNA was recycled, generation after generation, creating a closed circuit of inheritance with devastating consequences. Science calls this autosomal recessive expression, when rare genetic traits hidden in the shadows suddenly become dominant. And in Ray's case, these hidden traits resulted in severe cognitive impairments and physical anomalies. Ray is believed to live with one of the most profound forms of nonverbal autism, level 3, the kind that leaves a person trapped in silence, isolated from communication. But it is not just his DNA that shaped Ray's fate. The environment surrounding him was just as cruel, isolated from medical care, education, and any form of support left to navigate a world that did not know how to help or even recognize his needs. Ray was not institutionalized or abandoned. Instead, he was raised within the very bloodline that sealed his fate. A family bound by genetics and circumstance, struggling to care for a man who could not speak his pain or his thoughts. This is a story of systemic failure of a society that allowed generations to be locked in a cycle of neglect, hidden behind closed doors in a remote part of West Virginia. It's a reflection of a darker truth, that sometimes the greatest prisons are invisible, made not of walls, but of secrets and silence. Ray's existence challenges us to confront the uncomfortable reality that some human lives become collateral damage in the machinery of genetics, culture, and neglect, and it demands that we look beyond the surface to see the person beneath the label, beneath the silence, beneath the bark and the growl. Because Ray's life is not just a medical curiosity, it is a testament to endurance and the quiet rebellion of the human spirit struggling to survive in the harshest conditions. To understand Ray is to step beyond words and familiar definitions of intelligence and communication. His world is not built on language, but on rhythm. instinct, and raw sensory experience. He does not follow social rules or scripts. Instead, he reacts with urgency and repetition, sometimes barking when confronted or blocking a path, sometimes flinching or smiling unexpectedly. His actions are not random. They are intentional expressions of a mind wired differently, but fully alive. Within his silence there is presence, a fierce awareness that is easy to overlook because it does not conform to conventional norms. Those who have spent time with Ray speak of moments where his gaze locks onto theirs, as if searching for connection. A connection on his terms, not dictated by the expectations of the outside world. But Ray's presence is also a fragile boundary. He can be overwhelmed, confused, or agitated. His outbursts are not acts of aggression, but cries for space and understanding, a physical manifestation of internal struggle that is both heartbreaking and profound. This is the kind of truth that society often refuses to see, the truth of a man who lives inside his own world, yet fights to communicate through it. The truth of a person who embodies what happens when biology and environment collide without mercy. And yet Ray's story is not just about what he lacks or struggles with. It is about the resilience that pulses beneath his every movement, the quiet defiance in the way he carries himself, the way his body navigates a world that rarely accommodates him. There is a message hidden here, a message about identity and survival, about how far a human being can fall into the depths and still remain unbroken. This is a truth many fear, because it strips away illusions of control and normalcy and forces us to confront the raw essence of existence. Ray Whittaker is not a spectacle. He is a warning. He is a mirror, reflecting the darkness lurking at the edges of our collective humanity. Now I want you to do something crucial for yourself and this moment. Together in the comments, write this phrase twice. I see the truth. I embrace the shadow. This is more than words. It's a commitment to breaking free from the lies you've been fed, a way to unlock a deeper part of your identity that refuses to be silenced. Say it again. I see the truth. I embrace the shadow. Let it anchor you as we descend further, because from this point on, nothing will feel the same. You will carry this knowledge as a weapon and a shield against the forces that seek to keep you blind. Ray's story is a gateway into the machinery of hidden power that controls not just individuals, but entire bloodlines and communities. Behind his life is a web of institutional manipulation where isolation was not accidental, but enforced. A system that ignored medical intervention, not from neglect alone, but from a deliberate cultural invisibility. A place where poverty and geography were weapons of control, where the failure to educate or provide care became tools to keep a population contained and invisible. This is the heart of the forbidden history, where ancient corruption intersects with modern apathy, where bloodlines become both victims and vessels for a cycle of suffering sustained by silence. Those who controlled the narrative around families like Ray's ensured they remained on the margins unseen, unheard, unvalued. But what happens when the margins begin to speak, when the silence cracks and the hidden becomes visible? What happens when a man like Ray, a living testament to the cost of this control, surfaces in the public eye? The story becomes more than personal. It becomes political. It becomes a reflection of the systems designed to fracture identity and enforce compliance. You have now stepped into this dark current, a current that flows beneath the surface of society, feeding on ignorance, fear, and denial. You are no longer an outsider, watching from a distance. You are part of this revelation. Ray's body tells the story of survival beyond what any science or diagnosis can capture. His movements speak of decades without medical care, without therapy, without even the most basic support. His limp, his slow steps are echoes of a life lived in a physical cage carved by neglect and genetic fate. Yet in this body there is resilience. Ray's existence defies the assumption that absence of care equals absence of will. His hands may clench, his eyes may startle, but the body persists. It insists on moving forward, even when every joint aches and every breath carries the weight of a lifetime denied. Ray's physical reality is a symbol of the larger truth about institutional abandonment. The truth that many who fall outside society's definitions of normalcy are left to navigate their own survival in silence. A survival that is not just physical, but deeply psychological and spiritual. The world that surrounds Ray is narrow and constricted, not just by geography, but by social design. His home with his siblings is a fortress and a prison, a place where survival depends on the shared burden of blood and history. But it is also a place where a man like Ray can exist on his own terms, in ways the outside world cannot understand. This tension between confinement and autonomy, between vulnerability and strength, is the essence of Ray's existence. It is the paradox of the forgotten human spirit that refuses to be erased even when everything is stacked against it. And it forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about our collective responsibility, about the boundaries society draws, about the lives it chooses to witness or ignore. Ray is more than an anomaly. He is a call to recognize the humanity that exists in even the most shadowed corners of history and biology. Occasionally, Ray steps outside this confined world, brought by family to the Walmart or local fair. These brief encounters with the outside world reveal a man at once alien and profoundly human. He does not speak, but he notices. Not friends, but observers, his reactions unpredictable yet full of meaning, a bark, a retreat, a startled patience. These are his languages, his defenses, and his bridges. The outside world that watches him through viral videos and social media is a world he cannot enter, a world that judges without understanding, that exploits without consent. Ray has become a spectacle, not by choice but by exposure. The digital age has turned his life into content, fragmented and consumed by millions who will never truly see him. The controversy that follows questions about exploitation, consent, and dignity reveal how fragile the boundary is between awareness and objectification. When a man cannot speak for himself, the responsibility to listen deeply becomes ours. Yet, how often do we listen with empathy and not curiosity? How often do we see not a person, but a symbol or a story to be told and retold for clicks and views? Ray's silence is not emptiness, but a mirror reflecting our own discomfort with difference, with suffering, with truths that unsettle. Our gaze upon him is charged with power, because to look is also to decide what we will do with what we see. Will we use it to awaken our humanity or to deepen the distance that divides us? This is the final descent into the truth of Ray Whittaker's existence, a truth that forces us to examine not just him, but ourselves and the society that created this impossible life. The most dangerous knowledge you will ever hold is the knowledge of hidden truths that challenge your reality. Ray Whittaker's life is a dark prism refracting centuries of forgotten history, ancient corruption, and institutional control. It is a story of how bloodlines can be weaponized, how silence can be enforced, and how identity can be both forged and fractured by forces beyond individual control. But here is the ultimate revelation. Ray's existence is not just tragedy, it is resistance, it is survival, it is the raw pulse of human life, pushing back against the invisibility imposed on it. You have been led down this rabbit hole not to feel despair, but to awaken a deeper awareness, the kind that strips away comfortable illusions and demands accountability from the systems that shape us all. You now carry this knowledge inside you like a hidden flame, a flame that burns with the power to change how you see the world and your place in it. Remember Ray Whittaker as more than a viral story or a genetic anomaly. Remember him as a symbol of the unseen forces that shape history and the unbreakable will that persists even in the darkest corners. The question now is, what will you do with this truth? Will you turn away, or will you step further into the shadows to become the master of your own fate? The forbidden history has been revealed. The choice is yours.